Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Bethany Brings Books. I am excited to do this video today. It's been a while since I've done a video. Being regular with my videos is just something that I don't know if I'll ever get to, but maybe one day. But I'm busy now, single mama with 3 kids. I have a lot going on, so I just film whenever I get the chance, and it's basically for fun, so I'm not gonna stress over it. But anyway, I'm going to try to film a couple videos today. The first one I'm going to do is going to be my wrap up for February. So I'm going to get my reading journal, and I've been watching videos with different people doing their reading journals, and I love them. Holly from Lovely Day with Holly, I'll try to put a link. She did an amazing reading journal video. I loved it, and I wish I sit down and I think I want to do this, but then it's like my mind goes blank and I don't know where to start. So my reading journal is, yeah, it doesn't look too great, but anyway. Hey, I'm learning and I'm working on it, so there's that. This was my first sheet for February. See, basic, ugly, me trying to be I guess y'all can see that. So I redid it, and this is where I'm writing like what classics I've read. So I redid it, trying to figure out how to make it look a little cuter, and I have a stamp that I used for right here. I guess y'all can see this. I have a little stamp I used for there, and I wrote February, or my stamp, and then this is a list of what I read. Some stickers. So I read 7 books in February. It was a little bit of a weird reading month for me because I read a lot in a lot of different books, and it helped me finish some books like that I had started, and then other books I'm still reading. I like jumped around a lot, just reading a little bit in a bunch of different books, which I actually liked it. I don't know why, I just felt like I was taking it easy and just kind of reading what I wanted to read, and I finished some books and then others I'm still working on. So and I also read a lot of different types of books, which was interesting too. So let's get started. The first, well, I don't even know if these are probably not in order. I'm just gonna go with the list the way I have them listed on here. But this book, Anne of Wendy Poplars, is the 4th book in the Anne of Green Gables series, and I had been reading this a while. Like, I read this over I don't even know, it was probably a couple months. I read this one a while. This one was interesting. I enjoyed it. I don't remember what I gave it. I think maybe 4 stars on Goodreads. Definitely not my favorite of the series so far, but it was, you know, still L.M. Montgomery's writing amazing, just super beautiful, and she writes just such funny, quirky characters. But this one I found out was actually written after, like later on in the series. Like, it's not written in chronological order. So the 5th one was actually written before this one, which I picked up on when I started reading this one because it felt a little bit different, and I don't know, it just felt a little different and felt a little older. And a lot of it is written in letters, like her writing back and forth to Gilbert. We see a lot of stuff that, if you've ever watched the old movie, the 1980s version, the 2nd one, I've seen like a lot of the things that were in that movie are from this book. They combined some of the stuff from this one and the 3rd one, I think, and even the 2nd one. But yeah, I'm enjoying this series, and the 5th one I actually have behind me right here, waiting to pick up hopefully this month. This is a stack of books that I'm like my possibilities for this month. So my goal is to read the rest of the series by the end of the year. Then I read Little House on the Prairie. Where did I put it? Oh, right here. I read this series when I was young, and I loved it growing up. Loved the TV show. And so I really want to reread this series. That's been my goal. Like, one of my goals for this year was to reread the series. Loved this so much. I gave it 5 stars, I think. I don't like this one as good as the first one. I don't know why. Just the first one is just so cozy to me. And the thought of being out on the prairie, just like, I don't know why it like creeps me out. It just not creeps me out, but it's like, I don't think I could live somewhere where it was flat and you could see nothing, no trees or anything for like miles. I don't know. That would be weird. Cause I'm like, I like trees. Like, if I live somewhere, I can't stand to go past yards that like don't have trees in them. Like, I want, where the house I used to have had a ton of trees in the yard and I loved it. Is that weird? I don't know. Like, I wonder if there's a name for that. Like, if you love trees. I don't know. But anyway, I did love this one still. But it was fun. I love seeing their adventures and how she explains. Like, at such a simplistic level, she goes into detail about the little things that they did, how their pa built the log cabin, and how he built the furniture, and all of those little things. So it was really good. I loved it so much. This series is just amazing. This one's actually the second one. I didn't start with the first one because whenever my husband passed away, me and him were actually reading the first one together. I have this copy right here that I found a long time ago at like a thrift store or something. Isn't it so pretty? It's just gorgeous. And we were reading this together. We would read like one chapter a night for like those few weeks before he passed away. And even the night before he passed away, we read like one of the chapters together. And most of the time I would read, and we would sit on the couch or we would like sit together beside each other in the bed, and I would read it. And it was something that we both really enjoyed. And what was really cool was, like, there's a chapter in here about Pa and his rifle, and it's called the Long Rifle, and it's about Pa. He makes bullets for his rifle. He like sits there and she talks about what he would do, how he would use the lead to make bullets for his rifle, and how he would clean his rifle and stuff. And so I read that one, and then me and my husband had this like long conversation because my husband he was very much into guns and stuff, and he had it was a black powder rifle, but it was made to look like an old rifle, like an old musket, I think is what it was. And so reading this, I don't know why, I just became so intrigued with that. So we like just had this whole conversation where he was telling me all about how you worked it and loaded it and all that. And then like actually we read that, and like a couple days later was Thanksgiving, and so on Thanksgiving we were quarantined because of COVID. So we didn't have COVID, but we had been around someone who had it, so we spent that day outside cooking on the grill, and he showed me like how to shoot his black powder rifle, how to load it and all that, and it was really cool. I have pictures and so many memories. So this book, I don't know when I will read it again because we never finished it, and I know that's probably silly to a lot of people, but I just can't bring myself to pick it back up and finish it. It was a lot of fun reading it with him, and a lot of memories. We even watched, like, after we read some of it, we watched like the first episode of Little House on the Prairie, like the pilot episode. Sorry, I'm not trying to be all emotional here, but that's why I didn't start with this one. But I do love this edition, and one day I hope I could read it again. But anyway, that was what the other thing that I read. I also read, I have this series right here for Christmas. My mom got my kids this collection. I remember reading these when I was growing up. We had them, like our library had them. I never owned any, but our library had them. Picture books, children, like picture books of Little House on the Prairie. And this is the whole collection, I believe. And I love these so much. And so I also read one of these. I've been reading them to my kids. I think I read this one last month, I believe. And then I just read this one the other night. But these are so, I love the illustrations. They're just gorgeous. Like beautiful. They look like kind of like the illustrations in the books. They're so pretty. I called them My First Little House books, but they have like Christmas in the Big Woods, and Dance at Grandpa's, Winter on the Farm, Sugar Snow, County Fair. They're just all so cute, and I love them so much. Then I read a parenting book, Parenting Isn't for Cowards by Dr. James Dobson. It's one I've had for a long time. I have a lot of parenting books and that was another one of my goals this year, is to read at least one a month. I didn't do very well last year with that at all. So I read that one, and it was good. I got some tips from it, but I know I won't read it again, so I just got rid of it. And I think I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't great, but it was good. I got some tips from it, and I'm glad I read it. It just had, like, the first few chapters had a lot of statistics, like a lot, and then towards the end it was more focused on like teenagers and adult children, which still, I mean, I still enjoyed reading, but it overall felt a little bit dated too, so it was an older copy. And I finished reading Shelter of the Most High by Contessa Cossette. This is the second book in her Cities of Refuge series. I read the first one a while back, and I was just in the mood to read another one, so I picked it up. I read it kind of slowly, like I read some of it and then put it down for a while. In this, we follow Sophia, and Eaton, I think. Sophia is like, her whole village is slaughtered, and she ends up being rescued by some men from Israel. They like happen to find her and her cousin washed up on this like beach somewhere, and so they take her back to the city of refuge and kind of mend them back to health, and they begin to like learn the language of the people in that city, the city of refuge. What's the city's name? Kadesh. And so she meets Eaton, and they are kind of like drawn together and like interested in, like, they are mutually interested in one another. But he is still like battling some of his issues from so in the previous book there's some things that happen, and I don't want to give away spoilers. I don't know, I'm trying to figure out how to say it. These books kind of connect a lot, so anyway, there's some stuff that happened in the first book that he's still kind of dealing with, some of the repercussions. We're still seeing some of the things that happened in the last book kind of coming over into this book, even like years later, and affecting them. So basically we see their relationship and the different circumstances. They are living in the city of refuge. Like, the cities of refuge were where people fled to whenever they accidentally killed someone. God had Israel set up these cities so that if it was like an accidental death, they could flee to them, and while they had to like stay in that city for the life of the high priest till he passed away. And if they stayed there, then whoever like was seeking vengeance for their family could not go in and hurt them. So I think I gave this one 3 stars. It was good. I didn't love it. Usually 3 stars is if I enjoyed a book but I wouldn't reread it, and like I just didn't love it, and so that's how I felt with this one. So far, Contessa and Cassette's books, I like them, and I want to keep reading more of them. I don't love them enough that I would just go buy every book she owns or whatever. At least of the two that I've read. Now, I'm also currently reading the third one in this series, and that one so far I am enjoying a lot more than the first two. But still, it's just her writing style for me. I feel like in some ways it's just not particularly for me. It's a little cliche, sort of. I don't know how to say it. That's not the word I'm looking for, but it's just her writing style is just not particularly my favorite. And then I feel like at times some of the attitudes of the characters don't really fit the time period that they're in, like biblically. Maybe I'm wrong. I know she did like a lot of study. Like it was obvious that she researches these books well, but sometimes it just feels like the characters, their time, their attitudes and things feel a little bit modern. But that being said, I definitely want to finish reading this series, and I want to read more of her books. Then I buddy read Sonnet to a Dead Contessa with Celestria and Holly. We have been reading this series together, and this is the last one in it. It's the trilogy, and this one was definitely my favorite in the series. This is the Lady Trent mysteries. Like, it kept my interest. I wanted to see what was going to happen next. My complaint with it is that the mystery was very predictable. Like, I wanted to keep reading it to see what was going to happen next, because for one thing, I was hoping that I hadn't already figured it out, but I did. Like, I kind of figured it out right away. What annoyed me was the fact that the inspector and the detectives in the book didn't get it. I'm like, the clues are right here. Like, how do you not figure this out? That was what annoyed me. There was a lot of foreshadowing too that was done in a way that's very obvious, and it's like, okay, you don't, like, this is obviously gonna happen next. This is the person that's gonna be murdered next from this foreshadowing. So those are my complaints about it. Was that those aspects, like the mystery elements and the foreshadowing and stuff. I definitely don't think this is Gilbert Moore's best works. He has some other series that I enjoy a lot more, but I'm glad I read it and I had fun with it. I gave it 3.75 on Goodreads. I really had fun buddy reading these with Holly and Celestria. It was fun, just our conversations, chatting about what was going on with the characters, and yeah, I enjoyed it. So I haven't even said what this is about. Lady Trent, we started off the first book in the series following her, and she's like meets up with this actor, and they end up working together to solve some mysteries, like in the first and second book, and also are kind of, you could see like the love interest there. So this one kind of ties all that up, all the loose ends with their love interest and like what's going to happen with that. She is an atheist, and this book also shows her progression of her faith journey, like as she begins to explore her faith, explore faith further and Christianity. I'm sorry, I keep saying a lot. I don't know why I do that. It annoys me. But she is trying to figure out what she believes, and she also is trying to figure out like her feelings for Dylan, which is the actor that her and him have begun solving mysteries together. So in this one, someone begins killing ladies, like titled ladies who are wealthy and have titles, and it's like a serial killer. So they are put into the situation to help the detective who is investigating. They're helping him investigate it. So that's the basic story. Like, her and Dylan are helping investigate this mystery of these women who are being murdered, and in the end we're also seeing Serafina and Dylan's relationship. So that's that. I don't know why I feel like I'm struggling today to explain these books. I think for one thing, it's weird because I'm filming, like, I haven't filmed like this in a long time where my phone is flipped and I can't see myself. I know like the quality is better, but at the same time I feel very discombobulated doing that. Like I feel like, I don't know, it's different. So I think that's one reason I'm struggling. But yeah, read that one. Then I read a book that y'all totally surprised me, and that is The Magician's Nephew by C.S. Lewis. I just, y'all, this book, it just surprised me. I've never been a fantasy reader at all, and the idea of even reading fantasy never appealed to me, like, not at all. A lot of people wouldn't consider this like a major fantasy book, I guess, but for me, it is. So I've watched some of these. Growing up, I watched some, and then I watched the first one again a few years ago. Mostly because my husband wanted to watch it. And actually, though, after I watched it, I was glad I did, because the spiritual elements, the allegory that is told in it is so profound. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe was the one that we watched. And it's like, and I know a lot of people watch it and don't even realize, and a lot of people, I think, probably even read these books and don't realize the spiritual elements. And I don't know what it is about an allegory, why it's so impactful, but it is. Like this, reading it and seeing all of those like allegorical parallels just speak to my heart so much. And this was very interesting. It was good. I gave it 5 stars. I'm really excited to read the rest in the series. That's another one. The second one is another one that I'm looking forward to reading this month. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I think this is a series that I will read and reread because I really enjoyed this. And so I struggled with knowing which one to read first. Like, I kept getting confused because I was like, I saw one thing that said this was the first book, and then something else said a different book was the first book, and I was like, what? I'm so confused. So finally I figured out that this is like where he tells the beginning of it all, even though it's not the first one that C.S. Lewis wrote. It's like where Narnia began. So I just went ahead with this one. I'm glad I did, though. You know, I've seen the Narnia movie, so I already kind of know what the story is. So I feel like this was good for me to start with because it really sets it all up. Like, you just get the background story. So in here we have, I don't even remember the names. We have Diggory and Polly, who live next to each other. I think they live next to each other. And he lives with his uncle and his mother, his like invalid. And they begin exploring like the attic and end up discovering into his uncle's like secret study that they're not supposed to go into. And they discover something in there and end up being transported to another world. And so we see them as they're like going into these different realms and these different worlds, and things happen, and Narnia is created. Just seeing the parallels in this to like the book of Genesis and the creation story, it was just, I loved it. And Aslan, when I read about Aslan and I think about the biblical parallels to, and where Jesus is called the Lion of the tribe of Judah, it speaks to my heart in such a profound way. Like, y'all, I can't even describe it. Man. But yeah, this one totally took me by surprise. I shocked myself with how much I liked it. It was actually my favorite book that I read last month. So, hey guys, I'm back. I didn't realize my video cut off, which thankfully I was on the review in the last book. So I've got to do this clip. I also had this tea that I had sitting over here the whole time. I haven't drank any. But anyway, the last book. Let's talk about the last book. All That Is Secret by Patricia Raybon. For Black History Month, I saw an idea on Instagram to read like Black authors in the Christian fiction community. So I already had this book that I've been meaning to read for ages. I'd just gotten the second one in this series. I had pre-ordered it and just gotten it too. So I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and read this one. It is by Patricia Raven, who is a Black author. This is actually her first fiction book, I think. I think she's written some other stuff, but this is her first fiction. This is like her debut fiction novel, I think. This is a mystery. It's called All That Is Secret by, or an Anna Lee Spain mystery. So this is set in the 1920s, and we have Anna Lee. She is a professor at a small Chicago Bible college. Yeah, Bible college. First chapter opens up with her dad, and then the next chapter it goes to her, and it's been a year after the first chapter, and her dad had passed away like a year before, and she's in Chicago. Her dad was living in Denver, Colorado, which is where she grew up, and she feels like she's always kind of suspected that her dad's death was more than what she was told. Like, she feels like they were suspicious. So about a year later, she gets a note that really makes her feel like, okay, there's definitely something more to my father's death. I feel like she felt like he was murdered. So she decides to go to Colorado and investigate. Now, I should mention that one of her favorite authors is Sherlock Holmes. So every chapter is prefaced, like the little title thing with a quote from one of his books, which is cool. She talks about him a lot. But anyway, on her journey to Colorado, she goes by train, and she ends up with this little boy he's a little orphan kid who kind of sneaks off with her. So he's along for the journey. His name is Eddie. So anyway, they end up, some adventure and stuff happens on the train ride, which was fun. I just really enjoy like this era train ride mystery element. I love that so much. So some things happen, and then when they get to the town that they're headed to, some other stuff happens, and she finally ends up meeting up with the pastor where she was headed. Like, she was headed to meet up with a local pastor there, and he's young, and of course immediately she is attracted to him. That was the one element in the story that I didn't like, was the fact that how fast they are romantically. Like, I'm not talking about just attraction, like talking about deep feelings. That was a little fast. I didn't like that, but otherwise it was a fun book. So she gets hired on as a maid for this wealthy family. She decides to kind of go undercover and like in disguise and work as a maid for a wealthy family. They have like political connections in the town and political ambition, and she feels like they're tied to what happened to her dad. There's a lot of local like corruption and things that you see going on. There's also an element to do with the KKK, and apparently during that time period it was very big in Colorado. So she brings in some of that, and we see her solving her father's murder. I'm looking forward to reading the rest in the series. There's a little twist at the end, something surprising. And there's also some elements that I think will probably be continued later in the next book. Some things that happen. But it was good. I enjoyed it. At times it was a little bit hard for me to follow. The dialogue sometimes was a little jarring. Just the way she wrote it. Sometimes I had to kind of reread it because it was a little bit difficult for me to follow. But overall, I really, it was a fun book. And if you like Sherlock Holmes, Agatha Christie, those type of mysteries, this would be right up your alley. So I'm glad I read this. So guys, that is what I read in February. There's some other books I read that I'm still reading, or that I started. This is one of them, Paid in Full, an in-depth look at the defining moments of Christ's Passion. This is something that I picked up because another one of my goals is to read a Christian nonfiction every month. Of course, I didn't finish this one. This one is one I'm more trying to slowly read as we head into the Easter season. Each chapter it starts at the night before Christ or the night of his betrayal at the Last Supper. And each chapter is like slowly just working through that, working up to like now we're in the garden, and each chapter he focuses on different things that happened and gives like the original meaning of the Greek and some of the historical details and stuff like that. So it's good. I'm learning a lot, and he's just it is speaking to my heart, and I like how it's set up. It's short chapters. At the end of the chapter he'll have like some questions that you can read over. I like it. I'm not going to say much about this because I'm going to have, when I finish it, I'm going to have a lot to say. But Spare by Prince Harry, I'm reading. I am enjoying it. And I don't share, so far I don't share a lot of the opinions that I've seen, a lot of the criticisms that I've seen of this book. I am enjoying it. So I'm not going to say much about it. But yeah. I'm reading it slowly. I'm like this far into it. Yeah, that's what I read in February. Anyway, thank y'all guys for watching, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.